If this guy gets brainwashed, it's bad news for Ryu. Here's a look at the Jada Toys Street Fighter II The Final Challengers, Ken. Get ready for the ultimate showdown in a world where street fighting is the main event. Revisit the world of your favorite characters from the Street Fighter II video game now as 1/12 scale action figures by Jada Toys. The honorable fighter Ken is known for testing his limits when it comes to fighting, equipped with alternate heads, hands, and fireball accessory for Fists of Fury. This 6-inch figure comes with arcade-style packaging with features inspired by the game. Be careful not to get caught on the opposite side of Ken's right hook. Well, we already know he's a master, but is he the master of this mold? Yes, Ken is of course using the exact same body as Ryu that we've looked at before. Ironically though, when they first were creating the Street Fighter game due to budget problems, Ken only had to look like Ryu, but he also had a lot of Ryu's same moves. That would then get changed later on into the subsequent sequels, but we'll also be bringing in the Jada Toys Ryu that we've already had a look at. In the meantime though, let's take the tape measure of mine and figure out just how tall Ken stands. If you're familiar with Ryu's height, then you'll be obviously familiar with Ken's. The figure's going to stand at 6 inches the same, or roughly about 15.5 centimeters tall. Yeah, about that Ryu, the exact same size figure. Same body, same legs, same gi. The only thing clearly that they've done differently when it comes to Ken is changing his gi to red instead of the white. It was always really one thing for me when I was playing Street Fighter that I was always relegated to playing Ken. Same way, though, that playing Super Mario Brothers, I was always stuck with Luigi, because my friend would always pick Mario, and he would always pick Ryu. Here's also what Ken looks like also with Chun-Li. Chun-Li, of course, being smaller than Ryu. It doesn't change at all when you bring in Ken. Boring bodies and movesets isn't the only thing that Ken seems to be boring. He seems to have a lot of similar accessories as well. First, he does have a display stand that has 2 pieces to it. You get yourself the circular base, then you get yourself an adjustable neck that adjusts into knuckle joints. You connect the two together. Hey, that does look familiar. It looks familiar because, of course, we did get one with Ryu. We did also get one from Chun-Li. I'm sure that trend will continue as we look at more. Going further down the rabbit hole this guy's going to be doing, and we look at more Street Fighter figures. This serves, though, a purpose, because, of course, he does also come included with his fireball. This fireball, in fact, if you look at Ryu's, is exactly the same. I don't think at all they've changed anything differently from the mold standpoint, down to the fact that even they have the sculpted hands of Ryu's. Well, Ryu's was over here, Ken's was over here. They have the hands doing the same. Now, you just simply attach these to the display stand. If we find the hole first, there it is right there. It's really hard to find it. In fact, actually, if you just tilt it so that the light sort of hits it, you can find where that entry is. Just plugs that onto the display base. Just like that. And there you go. You've got yourself a way to have this looking as if he's firing the fireball. Although when we had done the review of Ryu, I did mention that review, with the elbow joint, the way that they're designed, double hinges still, there's impossible means. There's no way you'd actually be able to get his hands together. I tried my best at the beginning of this review. I failed miserably. Miserably. The figure does have some swappable hands as well. Now, these are also the exact same hands that Ryu got. These flat hands, of course, you would normally want to have them if they're in the game, one above the other, but again, you just can't do that with these arms. If you did want to swap out, though, the hands, it's just a case of holding onto the forearm. You don't have to make the sound while you're doing this. Just pop off the closed fists, and then find your hand that has the thumb in the right way, and just plug it in place. I'm sure I've said this several times, and I'll mention this again. I think the plastic that Jada Toys is using for these Street Fighter figures is really good. Very user-friendly. It feels very comfortable in hand. Nothing feels brittle. Nothing feels gummy. It's just the right kind of plastic. I do kind of wish, though, this guy could have also come included with an extra hand where he gave the thumbs up. Still, though, I mean, when swapping out the hands, of course, if you want to have this guy posed, it's a very hard thing to pull off just because, again, like, kind of have to bend the hand like this. This hand has to go over here. You can already see the restrictions that I have. There's no way that you really can have the hands close enough together. Still, though, if we get a closer look at Ken, now Ken also does have a swappable head sculpt. Let's just move things out of the way so we don't get focused elsewhere. Let's focus instead looking at the head sculpts. Now, he gets a smiling face, and he also gets the more aggressive face. The hair seems somewhat similar, although apparently when he gets a little angrier, his hair gets angrier too. The hair that they've used actually is a very soft plastic. Swapping out the heads, though, I will tell you right away, I actually so far have really only displayed my Street Fighter figures. I went back even with Ryu. Ryu had an angrier face. I chose more the neutral face. The same thing can also be said for Chun-Li. Where's Chun-Li? Chun-Li's right over here. Yeah, even though I do appreciate the fact that they give us alternate head portraits, I do really feel so far that all the heads that we get defaulted are the best of the two. Still, though, if you did want to change out the head, it's just a case of holding onto the torso, popping off the ball joint. Hey, that is easy. I'm telling you, man, it is. And then we're just going to pop then the new head on top of the ball joint. Make sure enough pressure is put so at least the head stays in place. There we go. As for the rest of the figure's body, mentioned already, though, it seems to be... Now, I did want to make some course correction. I did say it's a similar body. If you really look at the lower legs, they did make one customized tweak. They retrofitted the body so you can see that, like with Ryu's legs, he has more torn, tattered bottom legs to his gi, where Ken has it more smooth. Ryu also in the game was more focused on fighting. Ken was more focused on family. I don't know if that really does translate to a different gi, but yeah, you can see though that Ryu's does have a ripped, torn section for his shoulders, where Ken likes to keep his gi a little bit more clean. Not saying that though that Ryu has not a clean gi. Technically too, if you want to really look at also the back, there is a little bit more texturing on the gi for Ken. So maybe I couldn't say that they're identical to one another, but they are certainly taking similar cues. For the figure's articulation for Ken, let's spin things around first. Do we want to spend some more time looking at the face? Okay, we'll spend a little more time looking at the face. I mean, again, I don't mind this head sculpt at all, but I think a smiling Ken works a little bit better for my collection space. The gi, though, is a softer bit of plastic that goes over top of his existing torso. I think it would be, though, safe to say that he is using at least the torso underneath the gi seems to be the exact same as Ryu. And also you can see like the arms are the same. He's just a little lighter skinned. That's about all. Feet are also, looks to be the same. They also have, by the way, pegals on the bottoms of the feet. FYI, FYI, right there, right there. Okay, so for the figure's articulation, Ken's going to have the ball joint like Ryu had before. Head's going to allow, because of that, the head's going to be able to rotate all the way around. Even though he has really longer hair, it doesn't really seem to get in the way of things at all. You can easily move the head up and down, back and forth. You're probably also noticing, too, not only is doing all the work of just the ball joint that's attaching to the head, but further from that, actually Ken has a secondary ball joint right there. Though, because the two of those are working hand in hand, you get a little bit more posability when it comes to Ken's head. Ryu also had that as well. The arms are going to rotate all the way around, no problems there at all either. You can take the arms and hinge them out. I did notice this figure is tight on the arms, especially in the shoulder here. So I don't really want to fight it, but I do want to show you that at least the figure can pull off a 90-degree angle bend. Whoosh. Whoosh. In addition to that, of course, the figure does also have a bicep swivel. That's also here as well. The figure does also have a double hinge in the elbow. And the hands work the same way on both sides, no matter what side you're looking at. They rotate all the way around. There is technically also a hinge right here, so we want to make sure we cover off everything, checking off all the boxes. Ken does also have a hinge in his hands. That doesn't matter whether you want to use these hands, or it doesn't matter if you want to use these hands. You want to just, though, make sure the hands are all the way on there. There we go. Upper torso is going to be on a ball joint, even though he really is encased in plastic. It does not seem to impede much when it comes to rotating his torso. The legs easily split out. They're on ball joints, by the way. The figure does also have 3/4 the way up the thigh, a swivel cut, so you can rotate the leg all the way around. A double hinge on the knee. Articulation up and down for the ankle. You can also rock them back and forth. Did I already mention? I know I did. The figure does also have pegals on both of his heels. I love Ryu, and even though I like Ryu so much in the game, generally, though, I was always the guy that had to always play as Ken. That ended up really kind of working out better for me, because as a result, I grew up loving Ken more, even though really, like, I always really wanted to play as Ryu, but my friend who always was stubborn and stuck in his ways always felt the need to play as Ryu, so because of that, I always played at Player 2. Player 2, really the different deco, somewhat similar featured, somewhat similar moveset, clearly. He was basically the equivalent of Luigi's to Ryu's Mario. In the end, though, I'm really glad to finally have a Ken as part of my collection to go along with Ryu. This one was actually a little harder to find. I didn't find it on the Facebook selling group. In fact, actually, I went recently to Niagara Falls, going into a store and just not expecting to find anything that I would have been interested in, because my daughter would have been going in there getting souvenirs, getting candy, getting hats, getting slime. Why are kids so fascinated with slime all of a sudden? But while I was there, I looked to the back section where they had kind of just a random selection of things. And sure enough, they had a Jada Toys Ken for a pretty reasonable price. I think it was around $35. So I scooped them up right away. And now to finally have a Ken along with Ryu, if I had really now the choice, well, if you had asked me back in high school, I would have tried to choose Ryu as my first and favorite. But since then, though, over the time and over the years, I have a love now for Ken in the same way I have a love for Luigi. Being now sort of forced to pick the second player, so to speak, results in me liking that character, I think, a little bit more than the main character, if you think of it that way. For somebody that did start as a budget-cut clone of Ryu, Ken ended up standing out as one of the popular favorites among Street Fighter fans. One thing you probably may notice also if you played the classic Street Fighter 2 games like Champion Edition, that Ken would also fire a blue Hadoken ball, not the orange that we get here from Jada's. Now, there are, of course, things that Ken does change over the years. He also even becomes violent in some of the subsequent sequels. Speaking of violent Ken, Jada, in fact, did release a violent Ken version. I think it does use the same body that we're getting here with the original. It does, though, include some swappable head sculpts. I think he actually gets 3 instead of just the 2. And he gets a couple of fire effects that weren't included with this release. Now, Jada had that being advertised on their site and a few other sites that also had it listed. Wouldn't you know it, rule of thumb, the moment I start trying to track down and add these things to my collection, Violent Ken has sold right out. And even I think now the prices online have started to skyrocket. One thing I do kind of wish that this Ken could have had, not a violent nature, but maybe the peace sign hands. So instead of thinking things, solving problems with violence, he could solve his problems with peace. One of the things, certainly when he was beating his opponents, his fallen foes would then look up and see that Ken was doing the peace sign. I did say in the review a thumbs up sign. That would be certainly a fun additional accessory that they could have included with the figure. Now, I understand, though, that from the budget standpoint, we're talking about budget cuts after all. Jada Toys clearly has to look at this line and say, okay, what's the most important thing that these figures could have? The fact that we already have, for the price that these things are selling for, by the way, 2 swappable hands, 2 swappable head sculpts, a fire effect, and a display stand. For the price that they're asking for this line, certainly if you are a fan of Street Fighter, Jada Toys, I still feel, are knocking it out of the park. We did look at Ryu, though, first, but I'm glad that I finally had the chance to pick up my favorite player, Ken Masters. Let me know down below in the comments section when it came to picking your Street Fighter favorite character. Who was it? And did a lot of that have to do with the fact that you had another person that you were playing with that maybe picked the character that you always wanted to play as? So because of that, you always picked the secondary character. And who was your favorite character to play as? Who was the character that you often found yourself playing as instead? For me, I always really wanted to play as Ryu. Whenever I played against John, the guy I knew in high school, he was dead set. He always had to play as Ryu. Because of that, I ended up finding a fond fairness for Ken. Ken and Guile were always my go-to guys. And it hadn't been not for selfish John always choosing Ryu, I probably not would have ever played as Ken or Guile. So maybe it was a blessing after all. But what do you guys think of Ken? Let me know down below in the comments section. If you guys certainly did enjoy this video, you can do it as certainly a solid by, hitting it with a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. This, by the way, isn't the end, my friends, colleagues, anybody that just happened to be stumbling onto this channel and just realized, hey, this guy's doing Street Fighter reviews. Just know, new person, there's going to be a bunch of other Street Fighter figures all coming your way for the rest of this week. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.